Hi everyone, my name is Gary Gomes. I'm here to talk with you about um, Vedic astrology, astrology in general, and how it's going to affect you and the world overall. I just want to give you a little bit of my background. I've been a Vedic astrologer for 30 plus years. I started in 1990. I'm also a meditator. I was also initiated into TM in 1989. And I was interested in astrology way back when I was a little boy. I was never a little boy, but kind of a fat kid. But 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 basically, ever since I was a youngster, and and got involved in tarot a little bit when I was in college, and then backed away for and also numerology, backed away for a variety of reasons, more to do with my work life than with any real problems with it. And then I got interested in astrology again around the age of 32. Then I finally, about 5 years later, decided to take formal training in astrology. Since that time, I became a Vedic astrologer associated with the American College of Vedic Astrology, Kepler College, and also the Indian Council for Astrological Sciences, indirectly through the Council of Vedic Astrology. I was president of the Council of Vedic Astrology in the United States it was a worldwide organization, but it was based in the United States. It is based in the United States. From around 2007 to 2010, I was vice president from 2004 to 2007. And so there were 3-year terms, as you can obviously tell if you can do math. And I also have written a variety of articles on Vedic astrology for Mountain Astrologer, Express Tartella in India, and CGR, and also the Astrological e-magazine, which was founded by B.V. Rama's family in India. I've studied with K.N. Rao, who's a very well-known astrologer in the United States, in India, excuse me, and also with a variety of Indian astrologers throughout the years. And let's see now, I'm trying to think. I'm also a Reiki master. I'm a Temple of the Kriya Yoga priesthood, and so I'm technically what they call a Swami, which sounds corny to some people, but I'm a Swami. I can do marriages, pujas, rituals for people. And also, if you yourself are individually having problems in your life, I can prescribe remedies through astrology, which can help alleviate or ameliorate the problems, and in some cases, make them go away. Some problems are too deep and can't be eliminated, but they can at least be smoothed out a little bit. So I'll be honest with you, if you ever get interested in having a consultation with me, I'll be honest with you about what can be adjusted and what can't be. Some things you just wait out and they'll correct themselves. Other things you can take direct personal action on. You can also do what I call changing the environment. So let's say if you're in a difficult subperiod, you can focus on certain things rather than other things, and that'll provide greater benefit to you. So if you're in, let's say, a period which is not good for romance, and you know it's not good for romance, then you just focus your attention on other things, even if you really want to be involved with somebody. The timing isn't right, and you just say, okay, well, I'll wait for a better time, or else you adjust your expectations, or you can also do some remedies in your chart. You can strengthen certain planets, diminish the influence of certain planets, etc. And that's a unique attribute to contemporary Vedic astrology. Western astrology is more of a psychological tradition. You engage in some people involved in Wicca do planetary rituals as well. I'm not saying those aren't efficacious, but this is part of a long tradition in Indian astrology. And Also, if there's a ritual I can't do, I will refer you to a qualified priest who can do the ritual for you. Okay. So these remedies are one of the most powerful aspects of Indian astrology. Um, and some people don't want to do them, and that's okay. Um, there are no karmic consequences to doing a ritual. Essentially, what you're doing is you're adding energy to that planet, so no act ever goes ignored. Uh, and is and they aren't bad attributes. They don't bring bad luck into your life. So I think if you're interested, you're having a particular set of problems, you should contact myself or a qualified Vedic astrologer and discuss your chart. And that way you can figure out what's going on, when it'll pass, if it won't pass soon, what you can do about it yourself, and um, and take action as opposed to just sitting there and just passively being beaten up. Okay. All right. And also I do teach Vedic astrology. I teach it individually and I do teach it in classes. I've taught online at Kepler College, at Dira Academy. I'm still teaching there, as a matter of fact, in the American College of Vedic Astrology. I also do individual consultations, and I have a school opened up in which I'm going to take classes very, very shortly. It's a group classes, so if anybody's interested in studying as a group with me, please contact me. Please contact me. If you're interested in studying individually, I think that's actually a more intensive experience for the both of us. I think you learn more in an individual setting, but some people like groups. They like organized curricula, and that's fine. I can do that for you too. I can do charts for pretty much any occasion, such as weddings, births. I can analyze relationships, when to do things and when not to do things. And so there's an entire science of electional astrology, which every astrological tradition has, but which Indian astrology has produced has built up to a fine science. So all those things are available to you as we speak. The best way to contact me is at 508-525-0001. You can text me at that number. That's my cell phone number. Or you can email me at garygomesg@gmail.com. Again, that's garygomesg@gmail.com. I also have a YouTube channel. You're probably watching this on YouTube right now. This is also being made for Greater New Bedford Cable Television. And I have been with Greater New Bedford Cable Television for, I think, close to 4 years now. So this is, I appreciate them and I thank them very much for the opportunity to speak with you. But the YouTube channel, I do want to grow. I do want to expand to other channels, be more frequent in the broadcasts. I should be able to do that within a month or so, and start to really build up the number of posts I give you. Even give you some tips and some pointers during the week, and even do live broadcasts. So it's exciting. We're at an exciting time. I am working on a book. I've been working on this book for a long time, but this is the year. I swear it'll be done. And I think that's about it for self-promotion. I'm going to go on to look at the astrological charts and see how the planets are affecting us right now. And boy, hasn't it been an interesting week. So the end of last week, we had former Vice President Cheney coming out in the United States and doing essentially what a father does, and essentially trying to help his daughter win re-election by coming out and knocking former President Trump. And like I said, that's perfectly legit. It's a free country. We still have the right of free speech. And I think, but I also think we would never have seen that particular presentation if Liz Cheney were not in so much trouble in her race in Wyoming. And so we're sort of seeing like, you know, so we're seeing sort of like a battle between what I would call establishment politicians and I'm going to use this word deliberately, a usurper from the outside. Okay, so that would be Donald Trump. Now I have two charts, and you see, I don't know if you can see the first chart yet. Hold on a second. Oh, I killed it. Okay, so let me see if I can get it back again. Didn't mean to do that. Let me see if I can get out of here. I can shrink this. And I also wanted to express that I'm not actually approaching this from a political perspective. I think one of the things we can expect to see over the next year or so, so let's look at the chart right now, what's going on right now. And I'm just going to show you the chart. And of course, I'm going to talk about Mar-a-Lago. I mean, I don't like doing things like this. Oh, who am I kidding? I love doing things like this because it's really fascinating to watch astrological. But basically, so we had, so right now we have this. Okay, so I'm going to stop the screen, stop the share, and see if I can pull up the chart again, because it's been my experience that Zoom is sometimes finicky when it's recording things. All right, so I'm doing this broadcast when we have Virgo in the first house and Mercury's in the 12th house. So this indicates basically some secret goings on or some secret gatherings. You know, so we're talking about things happening in the background. And when I say secret, I'm not talking conspiracy. I'm just saying, essentially we're talking about things going on in the background in government. Government is largely a 12th house function. And why do I say it's a 12th house function? Well, basically, all government is essentially service. So some people would disagree with me. That's fine. They can disagree with me, but basically, government is here to serve the population. It's not here. So we've confused the function of government to, and again, it's been something that's been indoctrinated into us to have this large focus on leadership, on the fact that government consists of people telling us what to do. Government is essentially a system to ensure that people are taken care of. That may be a gross oversimplification. And power is intended not to be held by a few people. It's intended to be shared for the benefit of everybody. That's my personal belief. Okay, so I don't know if it's yours, but that's my personal belief. So the 10th house Lord is essentially the seat of action. And this shows Mercury in the 12th house. Mercury, so this is Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius. That's my moon sign, and Pisces, Jupiter's in Pisces, and Aries, and Taurus. So we have had a good thing happen over the past week. Basically, Mars has moved out of the same sign with Rahu, so that's good. But if we're talking about government as a function, it's a 10th house function because that's action in the world. That's the king. And the 10th house lord has gone to the 12th house. So you look and say, well, that's a good thing. It's really serving the people. But let's look at this carefully. And again, when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about this globally. I'm not just talking about the United States. Mars is aspecting Mercury too. So that's a classic combination for political maneuvering or for politicians. So Mars is aspecting Mercury. It's a very wide aspect. Mars has just entered the sign. But this does indicate that we've had people lying to us for quite some time. And this, again, includes people on both sides of the political spectrum. It isn't unique to one side or another. And this has been like, we're going to see this as like a recurring theme over the next year or so, basically, because this pattern is going to keep on repeating and repeating and repeating. And Rahu is also responsible for lies or deception or for illusion. And I think one of the things we're looking at also is Jupiter's in the 7th house. So Jupiter's connected with truth, is connected with honesty, with doing the right thing. But you'll notice that Jupiter is retrograde. And I'll use a Western astrology trope here and say it's with Neptune. So Neptune is kind of like, we don't really know the whole truth right now. Jupiter's retrograde. So essentially, what you have right now is a lot of, and again, this is the same theme that I said, that I repeated before. A lot of overreach. Jupiter retrograde tends to be what I would call unrealistically optimistic, and is in the same sign with Neptune retrograde. So we're kind of repeating some themes that we've had over the past few years. And the moon is in Aquarius, is in Rahu's sign, is in Saddha. So it's focusing on the deposed king. Okay, Saddha is a sign of the deposed king, the deposed ruler. Saturn's also aspecting Jupiter in this chart. And with the Saturn aspect on Jupiter, Saturn's also retrograde. It's essentially a payback combination. Saturn is aspecting Jupiter, and Mars is aspecting Mercury. So we have several combinations for deception in this chart. The Sun and Venus are well placed in Cancer, but they're aspected by that retrograde Saturn. So again, the planet that's kind of dominating this chart is really Saturn. Saturn's aspecting Jupiter, it's aspecting the Sun and Venus. It has the most interaction with any other planet. It rules the moon sign. So this is going, so we're going to kind of drag out economic activity. I'm going to switch gears and talk about economic activity. Economic activity is going to appear to loosen up over the next few months. So that'll last for about, I say, for about 4 months because of this retrograde Jupiter. But we'll still see inflationary pressure. We'll still see an increase in supply, which is really the only way to break inflationary cycles. To be honest with you, it has nothing to do. This is my personal belief system, having an MBA and having studied economics when I was younger, has zip to do, or extremely tangentially related to government spending. It has a lot to do with supply of real goods. So I'm going to stop this again and put it up again. So whenever you see a shortage of commodities and you have the definition of inflation is too many dollars chasing too few goods. That's really the textbook definition. And and so that so essentially inflation means that prices increase. Now, historically, the trend in inflation has been essentially like that over time. So essentially, it's really extraordinary to see a non-inflationary environment. And I think one of the things that we have right now is because Saturn's going to be um, dogging on Mars, we'll actually see a sort of a worse inflationary cycle early next around April next year, because Jupiter will be with Rahu, and I think I would be really careful about investments next year in 2023. I wouldn't be that careful. I wouldn't be as careful this year as I would be next year because that Jupiter Rahu conjunction aspected by Saturn, when Saturn goes into Aquarius in January, late January next year, will be kind of interesting to watch because you'll have both um, aggressive buying and also some increase in the labor market, but also increasing spending. I do think we are in a recessionary environment right now because of Saturn Jupiter aspect. We will be for about really until around next January, and then you'll see a break, and then you'll see it's coming out of it. But in terms of the idea that essentially what Congress has passed right now will address inflation, that really won't do it. What um, and we're sort of like in the cycle. It's kind of an illusory cycle, but we're in the cycle. Now, I want to skip over just quickly to Mar-a-Lago because it happened on a day which is kind of important. So we're looking at, so again, it's quote unquote, not really a secret raid, but allegedly it was an unexpected raid. And the sun is in the 12th house along with Venus. And Jupiter, so they're expecting to find secrets. Now, again, this is something that I don't know how much they knew. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much the FBI knew. However, what concerns me is this Mars-Rahu conjunction because Mars represents law enforcement along with Rahu. So what they're going to find is frustration because they'll be countered pretty much at every point when they try to bring this to trial. Now, I could be wrong. I could be very, very, very wrong. The other problem with this Mars-Rahu conjunction is it forces some kinds of fanatical thinking to emerge. So I think the timing was just really, really bad. I know the FBI doesn't use astrologers, but if I were an astrologer working for the FBI, I would have said, "Yeah, wait a few days. Don't do it now." But basically, and is it being used for? Is the rate being used for political purposes? Yes, by both sides. Okay, so those of us who think the FBI is not a political organization have short memories. I'm old enough to remember the days of J. Edgar Hoover spying on Martin Luther King and a variety of civil rights leaders. I'm thinking back to the days of other security agencies, such as the CIA being used by Casey to essentially block efforts on hostage release in Iran. I'm thinking back to various attempts throughout the years to overthrow various governments around the world and also to spy on the United States citizens. So our law enforcement, by definition, is a political act. Okay. However, it also indicates that the team at Mar-a-Lago um, is kind of using this as well. So both sides over here are thinking, we can use this to our advantage. So both sides are thinking about ways they can use this to their advantage, and it's going to turn into a mess, unfortunately. So, I think one of the things, how it'll resolve itself, I don't know if anything's going to happen out of this. I don't know if the based upon what I'm seeing, the United States is going to be in political uproar for at least another 9 years. So I don't think this is really going to change anything. If we look at the world charts, I think that's essentially we're lighting fires where none needs to be lit. And there was a lot of action. There was a lot of pressure from the the January 6th committee for the Department of Justice to take action. And they did it on the archives. They did it based upon the archives, not based upon the January 6th hearings, which is interesting. So I think what you're looking at is a multi-strategy approach to stop prevent Donald Trump from running again in 2024. Now, whether you agree with that or not, whether you agree that he shouldn't be allowed to run again or not, that's not really beside the point. But I think it's interesting because, and again, I'm trying to stay as non-political as I can. I think we're seeing both sides interfering with the electoral process to a certain extent. No side is better than the other. You may like your side better and say, well, they're doing the right thing. I don't know if anybody's doing the right thing right now. I tend to think basically everybody's jockeying for position, and it's really one of the biggest messes I've seen in American politics. Will the United States survive? Yeah. I think I've actually lived through worst crises than these. I've lived through worse media assaults than these in my lifetime. We lived through a worse crisis in the Great Depression. Okay, so in terms of what you're hearing right now, this sounds like this is the biggest threat to our democracy that we've ever seen. And in point of fact, we're forgetting the Civil War, we're forgetting the War of 1812, we're forgetting a lot of things. So I think it's right now we're looking about on a scale of 1 to 10. This is around the Civil War was around an 8. If we're looking at what's going on right now, this is around a 3 or a 4 in terms of disruption. But it is a disruptive period. It is a period in the United States history, which is sort of a watermark. And I don't know whether or not we're going to turn into more of a. So there's worry about a fascist takeover in the United States. I'm also concerned about what I would call a dynastic takeover. So essentially, rather than a fascist dictatorship, we'll have dynasties of people like Cheneys and Bushes and Clintons. Um, creating positions of power over time. So we'll see how it turns out. But I think one of the things that we have that we can look at is from this chart, there will at least be some relief, some economic relief with the Sun and Venus in the 11th house, slow but some. And I also think that when Mercury enters this sign in this will be around 10 days, Mercury enters Virgo, you'll see a lot come to light. It'll still be confused though, because Jupiter is going to be retrograde. You'll see a lot of evidence come to light. You'll see a lot of a reveal, and whether or not they're going to prosecute President Trump. Also, in terms of the world, I think you'll see kind of a loosening of economic restrictions, but there has been a lot of economic damage throughout the world. In terms of war, I think you'll start to see some negotiations in the Ukraine and Russia within about 2 weeks. And also from the chart, let me just see now, hold on a second. Let me just go over here. We're talking about foreign countries. Also some intensification, is that a correct word, of the economic sanctions that are imposed. But again, I would say, just in general, I'm not trying to make you paranoid. Don't trust anything you're hearing coming out right now because of this Mars Mercury aspect. It's really we're not going to be getting the whole truth about anything from anybody. And just go by your daily lives. Try to steer clear of political conversations. Try to stay out of violence, because that's really not going to solve anything. Okay. And I think, and I also think the other thing is try to stay out of paranoia, because that'll essentially put you in prison. It'll put you in a place where you won't feel comfortable living. Okay. So I mean, I'm entirely out of the political world. I have no part. I just care about it in terms of the way it's affecting people on a day-to-day basis. And these disruptions are essentially stopping us from addressing some real problems we're having. And a lot of that has to do with the idea that we're still looking at essentially the same economic systems we've looked at for years and years and years, which work sometimes and don't work other times. So instead of fixing like functional economic problems, whether it be through reform of trade or making sure that income is more, or there's more equitable access to income, I don't know if we're really addressing that right now. I think we're seeing struggles for which gangs stay in power, basically. And let's see, so let's go to the astro mapping chart and see where we might have some problems. So we have a Mars Mercury conjunction. Let me just look over here. I looked at the first thing. So Jupiter's over here near Hawaii and near Venus. So again, we'll have some flooding issues out there, because that's what that combination does. Sun is close to the West Coast, and there's a Rahu Mars. So you're going to see some political scandals and some overextension of legal authority on the West Coast of the United States. You'll see the moon is over here in Montana, going through Montana, basically close to Wyoming and close to Mexico. So this may indicate it's possible Liz Cheney will win her primary, but I'm guessing against it. Just because this indicates the old king um, has problems, and in the heartland, especially in Montana, um, down through this part of the country, you'll see some reversals of some people just thrown out of power. In terms of Jupiter passing over Washington and over Florida and over Cuba and down through Central America and down through Chile. So in Chile and in various southern South American republics, there have been leftist governments installed. So that's definitely a Jupiter retrograde phenomenon. It'll be interesting to see how long they stay in power, or whether or not there'll be coup attempts within about 4 or 5 months or early next year. So that's one of the things I'm a little bit worried about, that because that destabilizes the region. Normally the United States doesn't really support leftist or socialist governments coming into power in South America, no matter what the administration is, to be honest with you. And you'll also see some disruptions in Cuba. Also, Washington, D.C. has this really weird Jupiter line running over through it and up through New York. So this is sort of like central to where the Trump controversy is. But also, you have over the next couple of weeks a lot of fuzziness over elected outcomes, and that'll continue for about the next 4 months. So in Pennsylvania, interesting, I've been following the race in Pennsylvania. I don't think Dr. Oz is going to get elected, but I think it'll be far closer than what people think it's going to be. The other thing down here is we have Venus running through Cancer, so we'll see some squeeze on the Brazilian economy. Also, that Saturn aspect in Jupiter over here. Again, you'll see some like really tight attempts at control of media and control of government over here in the United States, and also in Chile and down through Peru. Mercury, Mars, again, political scandals in Britain, England, Ireland, Spain, Portugal, West Africa. Also, Jupiter's running through Norway, Sweden, Germany, Denmark, and down through Italy. So you're going to see switches or reversals of leadership over there. Over optimism or economic over optimism. Now, again, there have been a lot of fires in Europe. That Mars line isn't moving soon, so those temperatures are going to continue for the next couple of weeks. Venus is running through. I don't want to miss anything. Venus is running through, so Turkey's kind of unaffected right now, although it is between, and Eastern Europe, it is between Jupiter and Rahu. So even though there's a lot of attention focused on the war, the Ukrainian war will persist. Turkey won't have any major activities going on, although there may be some disruptions in government. And Rahu is passing over Iran right now. So Iran just put out that contract on John Bolton. And also Saudi Arabia is up to mischief right now. There's some lying going on in Saudi Arabia about the government. Finally, Saturn is moving over. So Pakistan and Afghanistan and Middle Russia are still in trouble, basically, economically and socially and politically. The sun is passing over Western China and India. So again, you'll see government restrictions, some problems with the governments there, and change in governments or attempts at change in government in China. I'm not sure how successful that's going to be. And also some government scandals in uh, in Vietnam, Cambodia, and all the way down to Indonesia. And let's see, Venus is running through Korea, but again, we're going to have a scandal over goods or shipping because of the competition, and also in show business because of this combination over Korea and southern Japan, and some potential for earthquakes in Japan. I hope not. And also down by the island of Borneo in Micronesia, and some government scandals in far eastern Australia. Australia has, and again, some government cover-ups in New Zealand. So again, I hate to sound conspiratorial, but that's what the map shows today. It's really, in terms of honesty, the map is really not in a good place. The astrological map is not in a good place right now, and there's a lot of jockeying for position over the next month. Very disruptive month overall. So that's what it shows. Now let's get back to your individual signs. All right. So this is a now map. I'm not sure why I did that. Hold on a second. Try to fix that. All right. Sorry for that. And basically, we have a Virgo rising. So Aries is going to be a little bit obsessed with money this month, and also a bit obsessed with position, but frustrated. It'll have a lot of authority though, and there'll be worries about children lying and also about children being a bit deceitful. Now, again, this is not necessarily entirely negative. Mars Mercury aspects are not necessarily always negative, so I have to be careful about that. But they do tend to allow people to make up stories pretty quickly. So I think when you're looking at this particular aspect, what you want to look at is whether or not people are being honest with you in terms of what they're promising you and what they're delivering to you. And in some ways, Aries is going to have to watch out for competitors trying to cheat them. In terms of relationships, K2's in the seventh house, and K2 in the seventh house, they'll be a little bit detached from relationship life. Some good factors for financial gain though, from this chart, and also for good for spiritual life and good for it, but probably a little bit overly inclined to drink or take intoxicants. For Taurus has Mars in the first house, so it'll be very aggressive this month, very sexualized. And Mercury's the Lord of the second house is in the fourth house, so that will give good combinations for real estate. So that's where that Mars Mercury aspect is actually good. Sun and Venus are in the third house, so the sign has a lot of ambition. Case, who's in the sixth, will have to watch out for health issues. This will be a recurring theme for Taurus throughout the next year. And the seventh house Lord is Mars, so there'll be a lot of focus on relationships for this particular rising sign and sun sign. And Saturn's in the ninth house, so basically good luck with slow luck, and career life will tend to be pretty good, although it'll change a little bit this month. But a lot of expenses. For Gemini has is in the third house. So this sign will be very careful to be diplomatic and be careful about what it says. And it will try to present itself in the best light possible in order to get ahead. Sun and Venus are in the second house. A lot of focus on money, but again, obstructed by Saturn. Fourth house Lord is Mercury is in the third house, so it's a strong desire for status. I'll come next week or a week and a half. And in terms of children, again, some problems in terms of love affairs or children. And seventh house Lord is in the 10th house, so relationship partners' career will flourish or will get better. And Saturn in the 8th house, a lot of research, and 9th house, a lot of luck. Jupiter in the 10th house, career life actually gets very good, although we'll have to watch out for friends being dishonest with it. For Cancer, Cancer has Sun and Venus in the first house. Relationship life will be relatively stable or coherent for this sign. Money will be good, and success will be good. Again, not a lot of happiness at home life, though, just because of that K2 in the 4th house aspect by Saturn. And relationship life will be, like I said, be stable, but it'll seem like you're moving backwards in relationship life. Moon is in the 8th house. This sign will lack confidence this month. It'll feel like it has to resort to secret research or secret investigation. So it'll feel a little bit trapped too. 9th house has Jupiter in it, which is generally good for luck, but again, a little bit overly optimistic, but not bad. And Rahu has Aries in it, so there'll be some financial gains for the sign, especially in terms of real estate and especially in terms of self-promotion. For Sun, for Leo, Leo has Moon in the 7th house, so that's good chance for relationship gains. So Aquarius and Leo will do actually relatively well this month, so we'll get to Aquarius in a little while. But in terms of relationship life, this will give change in relationship life, financial growth, more courage to Leo. Health issues, again, they'll have to be careful they don't overexert themselves. But again, they'll have a lot of research opportunities and a lot of unearned wealth. Rahu's in the 9th house, so they'll have to be careful about who they trust and whether or not they can please authority figures. And Mars is in the 10th house, which is very good for the sign. It tends to create a great combination, and so the sign will do very, very well. And let's see now. And finally, we get to the 12th house. Sun and Venus are in the 12th house, so there'll be a lot of attention on beauty or making oneself look good. For Virgo, Virgo has the Lord in the 12th house, so the sign will tend to be more self-effacing, more willing to sacrifice, but more emphasis on sexual activity and younger people. And K2's in the 2nd house, so again, speech is not the best aspect, or writing is not the best attribute for the sign right now, but they'll be very intuitive. Saturn is in the 5th house, so some problems with children. Jupiter's in the 7th house, so relationship opportunities, but again, be a little careful, be realistic. Wait and see how the relationship unfolds over 4 months versus jumping into something quickly. Moon is in the 6th house, so some gains through public life. Mars is in the 9th, Rahu is in the 8th. So again, research before you make any moves. Venus and Sun are in the 11th house, so good financial gains. For Libra, K2's in the 1st house, so the intuition is strong. Rahu's in the 7th house. And I think that Rahu in the 7th house will produce unusual or very unorthodox relationship partners. Again, it's something that Libra has to watch out for relationship life this year, and have to watch out for judgment. Saturn is in the fourth house, which is a good combination for authority. So this sign will have a lot of authority. Aspects the sun, it'll delay gains for this sign, but they will get gains. Moon is in the fifth house. This sign will be very intelligent this month. I'm not saying it just because I like Libra, although I do. This sign will be extremely intelligent this month, very, very sharp, very, very clever. Jupiter's in the sixth house, and that gives ability to overcome enemies. Mars is in the eighth, so relationship life is a little bit restrictive. And finally, Sun, Venus are in the 10th, so good for career life. For Scorpio, Scorpio has Saturn in the third, so bravery. Moon is in the fourth, change of residence. Jupiter's in the fifth, good luck with children. And Rahu's in the sixth, so there has to be there'll be some hypochondria for this sign. Mars is in the seventh, relationships. You should watch out for people taking advantage of you in relationships. Venus is in the ninth house, so actually good luck for the sign in terms of financial success or financial growth in career life. And Saturn aspects K2 in the 10th, so again, too much expenditure. For Sagittarius, and one thing I did mention about the Mar-a-Lago raid was the moon was in Mula Nakshatra, which is a war-starting or destructive nakshatra. So the intent of the raid was destructive. No matter who manipulated it, it was a destructive intent. And the outcome will be ultimately rather destructive, unfortunately. So let's get back to Sagittarius. Sagittarius has Saturn in the second house. So again, there's some depression or some problems with this sign in terms of money and going back. Moon is in the third house. Some change in direction. This sign will tend to be more philosophical. Jupiter's in the fourth house, a lot of emphasis on learning. Mars is in the sixth house, an emphasis on conquering enemies, defeating enemies. Venus and Sun are in the eighth house. So that indicates a feeling of prosperity being trapped and also governmental authority being trapped. The other thing is K2's in the Mercury's in the ninth, K2's in the 11th. Mercury in the ninth is good for communications, although it will be dishonest communications. And finally, K2's in the 11th. This sign will have to watch its friends. Saturn is in the first house for Capricorn. Jupiter's in the third, so a lot of diplomacy. Mars is in the fifth house, so it's good for gains for real estate. Rahu's in the fourth, so financial gains, but of a limited kind. And Venus is in, Sun and Venus are in the seventh house, so this is actually good for attracting good relationship partners. And finally, K2 is in the 10th, not a lot of recognition. Aquarius, good for finances. Jupiter's in the second house. Rahu's in the third, courage. Good for gain of real estate. Venus is in the sixth house, so some opposition from women. And finally, Mercury and K2 are in the sixth. Finally, Pisces, good for financial gain. Rahu in the second, Mars in the third. Good for love affairs. K2's in the eighth, so hidden problems, and Saturn's in the 11th. So that's all I have time for this week. I have to sign off. I love you all. Take care of yourselves, and please subscribe. Thank you very much. I ran a bit over. Bye-bye, everyone.